Hi, I'm Jack Howell. I'm going to talk about the final round of an audition because it's about time. I've made a couple of videos about the preliminary round, and it's not really fair to not talk about what happens in the end. What if you get into a final? I'm going to start by telling you about my first real professional audition. I was still in grad school, and the audition was for second clarinet in the Denver Symphony, what was then the Denver Symphony. My teacher, Bill Jackson, was the principal. The second player, Ted Owen, had just gotten the job in principal in the Detroit Symphony. And this was a dream job for me. Playing in my home state at the time, playing second to my teacher, who I idolized. You know, it was a job that it was just a dream. And taking my first real professional audition, not counting like Cheyenne Symphony and Greeley Philharmonic or the Casper Symphony or the Fort Collins Symphony, not counting any of those. This was my first big time audition. This was a job that would be a living. It would change my life. So I played the preliminary, and I got there, and there were all these Northwestern students and Curtis students, and I was completely intimidated. And my only thought going into the prelim was to not embarrass my teacher. That was my sole goal, is to not suck. I wanted Bill to be proud of me. So I went in with that thought, just play your ass off. And so I played my prelim, and I don't really remember if I thought it went well or badly. I think I was probably kind of sort of in a trance. But I drove home, and when I got home, and this was before cell phones, there was a message on my machine from the personnel manager saying that I advanced to the semi, which was the next day. And I thought, well, obviously someone has made a mistake, but I had nothing to lose, so I went back and I played the semi, and I had exactly the same feeling, is that I didn't want people to look at Bill and go, like, what, that's your student? So once again, I played the best I could. And much to my surprise, I advanced to the final. I had gone from a round where there were like 80 or 90 players to a round where there were, I think, 12 players. And then in the final, there were 3 players. And I remember thinking, you know, there's only 2 other people. If I don't screw this up, I might actually get this job. And I played the final. And I can remember when I got home, there was a message from Ted Owen saying, call me. And I called Ted, and he said, what happened? I said, what do you mean? He said, you disappeared. He said, you were my top choice out of the semis. He said, you were everybody's top choice. He said, you played the most beautiful Rachmaninoff second I've ever heard. But in the final, it was like another player. And what had happened was that when I was playing the other rounds, I wasn't thinking about what might happen. I wasn't thinking about actually getting the job. I was just trying to play my best. And once I stopped trying to play my best and started trying not to make mistakes, then I became another player. I'm not saying I would have won if I had not done that, but you can see what I did wrong. And The first mistake that I made was I didn't have a plan. I had no idea that I would wind up in the final, so I hadn't prepared psychologically or emotionally, and I fell prey to some classic illusions. The first illusion is that in the final round, the stakes are higher, so you have to do something differently. Either, as I did, you have to play it safe, so you don't make a mistake and eliminate yourself, or you have to go for broke and be some enlarged, supersized version of yourself. This is an illusion. You're playing for exactly the same stakes in the final as you were in the prelim. You are exactly the same person. The difference is, in the prelim, you probably, like me, didn't think about the future possibilities because there is no future if you don't make it past the prelim. You want to get out of the prelim, of course. Everybody does, but if you don't, it's not like you lost. 90% of the people there don't get out of the prelim. Sports psychology tells us that we perform our best when we care just enough. Not too little, not too much. Once you're in the final round, it's easy to care too much, to start thinking about, what if you got this job? It would change your life. You could live in a nice place. You wouldn't have to temp anymore. Or, if you don't get the job, you'll feel terrible. You got so close and you couldn't close the deal. These are illusions. They're creations of your own imagination that draw you out of the present, which is where you actually must play your audition. And they distract you from the musical thoughts, which are what the committee is interested in. Staying present in the moment is the key. On the other hand, everybody's different. Every audition is different. And I could be wrong about you. If you are totally motivated in the moment by the thought of buying a nice car once you get the job, rock on. Don't listen to me. But I've heard a lot of auditions. I was on an audition committee where I loved a player's semifinal round. Loved. That player's semi was my favorite performance of the audition. If it had been up to me, I would have stopped right there and hired the person on the spot. Thank you, everybody. The audition's over. But in the final, that player seemed to disappear and be replaced by a miniature version of the performance that I had loved so much. It was tentative. It was small. It was safe. And I thought of myself, almost 40 years ago, young, inexperienced, making my first final for a job that I really, really, really wanted, and trying to play it safe, when what I needed to do was simply to play. Hence this video. I hope it helps. Go get 'em.